Today we are meeting with Lynn. She is a veterinary technician associate degree graduate. Welcome, Lynn.
Thanks so much, Nicole.
So, as many people know, we recently put our call out for our Graduate of the Year competition, and I'm very pleased to announce, Lynn, that you are a finalist. Congratulations.
Thanks so much. I appreciate that.
Oh, definitely. You had such a great story that you submitted that really, I'm sure, is going to resonate with a lot of people, particularly within your field. So we just thought it was a really, really great example of a wonderful student who has accomplished a lot. So just to get started, I know you mentioned in your application that you did work with animals in high school, but you initially didn't really see it as a career path. How come?
Yeah, I was very politically minded. I really saw myself going to law school. I moved to Washington, D.C., but it was just too far from home. So when I moved back home and I was going to a more local college and I had a part-time job, I started working at a veterinary clinic, which was different from my pet store experience. And that really just revolutionized it for me. I said, okay, this is what I want to do for sure.
That's awesome. So, how did you come across Penn Foster? How did you find us? How did you decide, hey, this is the program that I think is going to be a good fit for me?
Yeah, absolutely. So I have had a really wonderful experience with a couple of my past employers who have done Penn Foster sponsorship. So that was how I was first introduced. My first veterinary job at Banfield, they were wonderful enough to partner and sponsor me. So that's how I got started with Penn Foster. And truly, there's just no way that I would have been able to go to an in-person school. This was the only way that I could really make my dream happen. And so with that partnership and that sponsorship, I was able to accomplish that.
Oh, that's so great. So, speaking of, you said you continued to work while you were, undertaking your degree. What was that like? How did you find the time?
Yeah, a lot of balance and a lot of self-motivation for sure. At the time when I first started my degree, I was working as a veterinary assistant, and then I became a shift lead, and I have been working as a veterinary practice manager for almost 5 years now. So it took me a while to finish my program and get what I needed to do because of everything going on in my career and my personal life. But with Penn Foster's flexibility, I was still able to get the degree, and now I'm a certified technician.
That's amazing. So, did you obviously, that's a lot to take on, especially, changing positions. How did you find that balance? Did you feel like sometimes, you had to take a step back from your studies and just like get a little self-care me time? Or did you kind of or you more of the type where, if you just keep pushing through, just like end goal in sight and just keep going towards that?
I love to say it, that old adage, it doesn't matter how slowly you go as long as you don't stop. So I never stopped. I never unenrolled. I was just like, I'm going to go as slowly as I need to, make sure I'm actually absorbing the material and I'm not just like rushing through for no reason. And
So important to make sure, it's not just about fitting into a timeline. It's about making sure, especially in this field, actually absorbing and being able to relay what you're learning. So, did you ever? Some people, obviously some things are harder than others. And sometimes, people can just go through the program and, they get through it and that's that. But sometimes, you hit little road bumps. Sometimes you need a little bit of help. But did you ever hit any of those roadblocks and was there help for you to find if you needed it?
yeah, absolutely. I totally hit those roadblocks, especially during COVID and, everything that happened since then. I used a lot of help internally at Penn Foster through the Success program. And I also spent a lot of time there are a bunch of Facebook groups for the veterinary semester specific. So you could really connect with not just your peers who are in there, but there were Penn Foster moderators who were super responsive and always available to answer my questions like within 24 hours. And they always could point me in the right direction. So I never felt like I was alone, or it just felt like I was commuting, honestly, which was really great.
Oh, that's such a cool way to look at it. It's just like your commute. That's the first time I've heard that, but that is like such a good way to kind of translate it. Speaking of your peers, I have to say, From everything I've seen, the vet tech and the vet assistant groups, they're probably the most interactive, I'd say, out of the different groups. How was that interacting with your peers? Because that's another aspect, is the social aspect of going to school that I think sometimes um, people worry about missing out on. Did you feel like that was there for you if you were looking for it? Not everybody does.
Yeah, I really did. And it was great too, because also as a practice manager, I had some of my teammates also enrolled in the program, but I'm still their boss. So they would feel a little awkward being honest. I haven't done my bio assignment. You know, it was great for me to be able to like commiserate and have true camaraderie with other people who were my true peers and there was no like power imbalance with. So I really found that to be very helpful in the groups, and the groups are very reassuring. And I love the gap. There are some people who have never been in a veterinary hospital before, and some people who have been in the field for 10 years and want to get their certification and their degree. And it's a really cool place for all of those people to come together and share their experiences.
I love that. So, what was your favorite aspect of the program?
Oh, I have to say externship too, which I think is going to be a controversial opinion. Challenging, but I grew up in New England. This is where I've lived my whole life. We don't have a ton of large animals here. I'd never been to like a farm in any kind of working capacity. So, really having to stretch my muscles and put what I learned into practice, it was really cool because all of the small animal things and even some of the exotic skills I'd been exposed to previously, but never have I had such an experience as I did during my large animal externship. And I was able to partner with one of Penn Foster's Fast Lab programs at Sandy's Haven in Idaho. They're fantastic. So everybody, we still have a group chat, the 10 of us who went out together. So it's really cool to be able to connect with people from all over the country and work as a team to put our skills together and finish our degree.
So, you also talked about that you've moved up in your career and you've advanced a lot of it during your time that you were working on your studies. Can you kind of explain that progression a little bit? And do you feel like, even though you weren't done yet with your program, do you think as you were working on it, did that impact these upward moves?
Absolutely. Yeah. I think you learn something from all of your experiences, right? And so it was really wonderful to be able to take so many different pieces of what I had seen in real life and apply it to my program and vice versa. So when I had originally started in veterinary medicine, I worked as a receptionist and then I became a veterinary assistant, which is when I joined Penn Foster. And really became excited and passionate about veterinary medicine. And as I continued to progress and I became a shift lead and eventually a practice manager, the focus around collaboration, being creative, and making sure that, um, barriers are going to be there and we have to find ways to jump over them. And there's a lot of things that when you go to an online institution, you sometimes are left with gaps, but I didn't feel that at Penn Foster. They were all there. And it was really great to be able to like put it all together and then just come out on the other side as a much stronger practitioner all around.
I think it's really cool that you mentioned creativity because it's not necessarily a field that people frequently think of creativity as being a part of because it is science based. And, there are certain steps and rules, obviously, that you have to follow. And there's not a lot of room to move around. But can you talk a little bit about like the creativity you've had to have?
Yeah, it's really critical. Veterinary spaces have been really tough. It's emotionally, physically exhausting. There's burnout and mental health stresses. So I have always tried to find ways to connect with people in different ways. Like one of my favorite things to do that I've done at several of my hospitals is I send out a list of everybody's names and I say, send me the first three words, the first three mind when you think of this person. And then I generate a word cloud for them. And the largest words are the ones that people have said the most. And it's so interesting to see the commonalities and themes that people see and recognize in one another and call out and say, wow, you're so great at that. Or I love this about you that sometimes people don't go back to or think about. So that's something that on a hard day, you can go back and reflect on that. Or at my current practice, we have this You Rock box where we have virtual submissions, or you can write little notes to one another, but we have over 300 notes every month pretty consistently, from peer to peer saying, hey, thanks for doing that. Thank you so much. And I want to create spaces where people are connecting on a deeper level, and we have to trust one another so much in veterinary medicine, and we're so vulnerable with one another that I want us to be able to share in the good times too, and be able to really lift one another up. So those are some ways that I've gotten creative as far as like connecting people and connecting the dots and making people feel welcome. And I think that's something as the field as a whole, we could do better.
I love that so much. I think that's such a great idea for any field, really, because I mean, it sounds really cliche, but obviously, if your employees are happy and appreciated, and especially if they do feel like they have a strong bond with their peers, it makes for a more productive environment. And, it just, even something as little as that, as a little note, complimenting you on something, even whether it's your job duty or something else, can make you feel so good about yourself. And that really can kind of just change the entire atmosphere of where you're at. So kudos to you, because that's such a brilliant idea.
Thank you.
Definitely. So I want to ask a quick question, because this is one that we get asked a lot from potential students, and that's the difference between being a vet assistant and a vet tech. And since you've done both roles, I'm curious, what are the differences you see in those duties, just to clarify for people who are kind of trying to decide between which is the right path for them.
Absolutely. So it is going to be state by state dependent. Each state has their own practice act that dictates do what procedures. For me, in the states that I have resided in, veterinary assistants typically are utilized as technicians. Veterinary assistants in my current working environment and experience are more focused around restraining, running labs, basic diagnostics, things of that nature, prepping, preparing. Whereas veterinary technicians are more clinical members of the team. They're the people obtaining those samples, placing catheters, monitoring anesthesia, performing radiographs, that sort of thing. And both positions are integral to the hospital. You can't succeed without them. So I encourage everybody to spend some time shadowing, interning, working in the kennel, whatever you can do to get your foot in the door at a veterinary hospital, and look at all the different careers. Being a VA is not like a consolation prize for not being a tech. Being a tech is not a consolation prize for not being a doctor. They're all very important roles, but they're all very different. So you want to make sure that do I want something that's more patient focused, something that's more clinically focused, something more diagnostic medically focused, and that will help you make your decision. But at the end of the day, you're going to get to help people and their pets.
Well, I love that. As a pet parent, I really appreciate that, especially because I have two very old pets who had a really rough start, and they have required a lot of care over the years, but worth every minute of it. And I know having qualified, healthcare providers for them, just like with people, it really creates such a reassuring feeling to know that they're in good, qualified hands.
Absolutely. It really goes so far to have our education, to understand the why. I was an on the job trained person, and there's no disrespect, that is very important. People who are on the job trained assistants and technicians are critical to our field. But if you want to advance your understanding, know your why, and really make this your career, getting a degree is the first step to that. Title protection is a heated discussion in the veterinary community right now. And with different states changing their legislation, it's more important than ever that everybody gets the education that they're entitled to. So then they're protected and they can do the tasks they want to do.
Definitely. So you're the manager of a 24/7 emergency vet practice. That's got to be super intense. Can you give us a little rundown on some of what you do, and what specific information that you did learn in your course do you kind of apply on a regular basis?
Yeah, that practice management course is important, y'all. Yeah, At my 24-hour hospital, I have a team of about 55 paraprofessionals and 8 doctors. So it's a very large practice. It is a wonderful space. I work for Veterinary Emergency Group, who also has Penn Foster sponsorships available, which is wonderful. We support everybody getting credentialed. Sort of a day in the life for me and some of the skills that I use regularly. I don't often work, we call our credentialed technicians at Veg, we call them nurses. I don't often work as a nurse, but sometimes I do if there's a critical emergency that comes in or a staffing shortage. But things that I'm doing that are not traditional nursing skills that I learned through Penn Foster, things that you learn in your practice management course, some basic HR, OSHA, making sure that your team is well regulated, everybody has their licenses up to date, those sort of logistical things. I manage all of that. And then I manage payroll, people connections, hiring, making sure that everybody's continuing ed is good. And then I'm everybody's therapist. I like to say that I have like 50 something children. I'm always there for my team to make sure that they're supported. They know that they have the resources because it can be daunting, whether you're at Penn Foster or Veg, if you don't know what resources are available and how to access them, really matter that they're there. So I try to bridge the gap and be an advocate for all of my teammates so then they can get whatever it is that they need.
Also, one of my favorite things that I saw, and this was something that I was introduced to about a year ago. You did your fear-free certification. That's a little bit of a mouthful. I sometimes have a hard time getting it out. So this is something, especially as somebody who owns pets, I find incredibly intriguing. I will do a terrible job of explaining what that is, but could you perhaps do that so that way people who aren't familiar with it get a better understanding of what it is and why it's so important?
Absolutely. And I got to shout out Penn Foster for supporting me and sponsoring me through that fear free certification. All students have access to that, which is amazing. So, fear free really is my favorite analogy for it is think about going to the dentist. Most children 80s and 90s were petrified of going to the dentist. Very scary, not fun, like, oh my gosh, it's drills and oh. Now when I take my kid to the dentist, it is an experience. They get cool sunglasses and they get to hold a toy,
Right.
pick something out at the end. They really have changed the culture that people feel when they walk into the dentist's office. We want to do the same for your pet. When your pet comes in, they're experiencing a lot. They can remember their smellscape, their hearing, their eyesight, everything is very different to them than it is to us. So their environment really has to be shaped for them. And we want to make sure that we're doing things to make the environment as easily to access and as stress-free as possible. So when you come into a veterinary hospital, if you imagine that you are a cat and you are in a carrier, your owner's swinging you around, you're freaked out, you never leave the house, so we're already off to a bad start. And then all of a sudden you get thrown up on a table and then somebody reaches in and rips you out of there and you're like, what is going on right now? And somebody's, they've got tools and they're in your face and you can smell other animals and you smell fear and it's confusing and you don't know what's going on. And then you're getting poked and prodded and you lose it and you snap and you bite or you scratch and then you're a bad animal. We want to avoid that. So fear free really focuses on changing the environment, focusing on body language or the stressors that the animal is experiencing and minimizing them as much as possible so we can mitigate that stress. So sometimes we change the way the clinic is structured. We change at my current practice at Veg, we like to say we sit on the floor, which really means we go wherever the pet's comfortable. I'm not lugging your huge dog up onto a table. I'm going to come down to their level. I'm going to be low, slow. If we need to use chemical restraint, shout out gabapentin and trazodone. If we need to make them more comfortable, we can do that. We don't want to rush things and traumatize animals just so we can get them done. We want to go slowly, make sure that they're comfortable, and treat behavior the way that it should be treated, which is a fundamental aspect of medicine. And there has been a culture around like, let's just get this done. Let's just get this done. And so Fear Free really seeks to remove that and to make it a patient-centered experience, which also helps to increase owner compliance because then they're not like, their pet's having a good experience. So they don't put off coming into the vet because Fluffy loves going to the vet. It's no problem. I come to the vet, they're going to put off crucial visits and maybe even preventive care. We could miss things as practitioners. So it benefits everybody.
So, you're also preparing for your VTNE in a few weeks, or did you take it already?
Took it and passed it, one and done.
Oh, fantastic. And congratulations. That's so exciting.
Yeah, it's awesome. I'm so happy to have that done.
That's so great. Did you feel that the coursework really prepared you for it? Did you, I mean, I'm sure it involved a lot of studying prior to taking it, any between finishing the course and taking the exam, but did you feel like a lot of what you found on the exam was covered in your Penn Foster coursework?
Totally. Like, there's no way that I could have passed that exam as an on the job trained technician because I just was not exposed to so much of the knowledge that I learned during my Penn Foster experience. So, there's a whole course in your fourth semester that's dedicated to VTNE prep and getting you ready to take the course. And it's got some really great resources. And then at the end, when you graduate, Penn Foster does have a relationship with Vet Tech Prep, which shout out Vet Tech Prep. Definitely one of the reasons I passed that exam on my first try. It is structured exactly like the exam. It points out your weak points, your strong points, what you should focus on. It'll make flashcards for whatever you need. And Penn Foster did give a discount code for that as well, which of course is helpful. So I was absolutely prepared by Penn Foster to take the exam, and now I'm a licensed veterinary technician.
Congratulations. Lots of good news coming at you all in a few weeks.
Been awesome.
What a great start to the summer. Can you talk a little bit about the organization you work with and its importance?
Absolutely. So I help volunteer with Not One More Vet, which, if you're not aware, you should absolutely go to nomv.org. It's a wonderful organization that aims to bring awareness to the suicide rates in the veterinary community. Veterinarians and veterinary technicians are much more likely than the general population, sometimes 3 times more likely, depending upon your demographics, to lose their life because of suicide. This is a culmination, it's due to a culmination of things, but burnout, compassion fatigue, long hours, being underpaid, those kind of things do take a toll. So there's a lot that Not One More Vet does. They do some direct advocacy. They do grant work. So if you're in an emergency and you're a veterinary professional, they can help you. If you're a veterinary clinic who's been affected by a natural disaster, a fire, anything, they have grant programs available to get everybody back up on their feet. We do direct advocacy work with clinics where we go into hospitals, talk to the teams, make sure that they have all of our information and they know how to reach out. We do also have programs where you can nominate somebody in the veterinary community, if they just need a little extra TLC. There are baskets, there's gifts, there's things that we can do just to make sure people feel seen, heard, and they know that we're there for them. A lot of the advocacy is based around financial need and emotional support because those are two of the biggest things that contribute to burnout in veterinary medicine. But it really is such a phenomenal organization, and I encourage everybody to take the time to check it out.
It sounds amazing, the type of work that they do. And it really, like everything else, it really does benefit, I think. I mean, obviously it benefits those who it directly helps, but it really benefits the rest of us in turn as well. It benefits coworkers, it benefits our animals, it benefits us as animal owners. So thank you for contributing to that and taking your time to work with them and do such good work.
Absolutely. Thanks.
And so finally, just to wrap it up, I know you said, you work with a lot of people, you have a very big practice, but say you had somebody new coming in and they maybe have on the job experience or maybe they have no experience at all. What would you tell them about Penn Foster?
I would tell them that Penn Foster will connect all of the dots for you. That you have seen so many things and been exposed to so much, or you're going to over your career, and this will really help solidify everything for you. I would let them know that about all of the support that I've received. I mean, I talk to everybody now too about just the camaraderie, the relationships, the people who I know all over the country now because of my time at Penn Foster. So I think I would really speak a lot to that and just speak to the accessibility and remind them too that it's on you. You've got to be the person who's logging on, doing your studying, doing your work. There's a community to support you, but you're the person in the driver's seat. So I always make sure people are in the right headspace and ready to do it, but everybody should go through the program for sure.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today and sharing your story and your knowledge and all the wonderful work you do. We really appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Nicole. I really appreciate you.
Thanks.